What do you desire in the next 10 years? That's the question I want you to focus on. I want you to construct a list of at least 50 things. Don't overthink it. Just jot down whatever comes to mind as soon as you can. This list should be about what you desire, not about what you think you can acquire. If everything came into place and you could have anything you wanted in the next 10 years, what would it be? Imagine someone guaranteed you that you could get anything you desired in the next decade. What would you want? Approach this with that mindset. It's not about what you believe is achievable, but about what you actually desire. Now, spend some time and jot down your list of 50 items. List them one under the other, not side by side. This is crucial since we're going to do something with this list later. Abbreviate where feasible so you can fit more things on the list. Consider everything from destinations you want to visit, investments you want to make, educational aspirations for your children, personal goals, professional ambitions, and more. Think about the items that you need now, this year, next year, and even 10 years from now. What would actually fulfill you? Everything that comes to mind, talents you want to master, languages you want to speak, houses you want to own, a ranch in Montana, a cabin in the mountains. Anything large or small, write it down. What are the destinations you want to go? The experiences you desire to have. Maybe it's flying in the Concorde, bungee jumping, or something you've never done but dream of. Add it to the list. Write a song, write a book, or write a poem. Think about what would provide you the most fantastic life in the next 10 years. A new wardrobe, a new look, starting a new family. Whatever it is, write it down. I was having brunch with Larry K. recently, and he discussed starting a new family, even at his age. Jerry Lewis, age 72 or 73, had a little girl. You might not desire it for yourself, but think about what you do want. What would give you the greatest satisfaction, joy, and pleasure? What would make your life incredible in the next 10 years? Also, think about behaviors you want to modify and health you want to obtain. If you've attended my seminars before, you've certainly heard me talk about little revenge. It's a portion of your goal list that encourages you. There's something rewarding about conquering the folks who questioned you. For example, I recall when I first started accomplishing my goals, and some people didn't trust in me. It felt amazing to prove them wrong. Satisfaction comes in various kinds. For me, it was about obtaining financial freedom. I recall finally getting the money I'd toiled for, collecting it in little bills in a briefcase, and stepping into someone's office. I put that mound of cash on their desk and said, "Count it," then walked out without asking for a receipt. That was my version of satisfaction. David in the Bible stated, "God prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Isn't that a beautiful image? Picture it. Your success right in front of those who doubted you. It's something worth adding to your list. Think about what would offer you the most satisfaction. A full-time cook, a chauffeur, a maid. It doesn't have to be extreme. What would make your life easier or more enjoyable? Maybe it's something simple like having someone do the tasks that take up too much of your time so you can focus on things you love. Maybe you want to learn a new craft, start a new job, or advance in your current one. Write it down. There's no such thing as a tiny goal. Anything that's significant to you is worth including. Keep compiling the list, adding everything you can think of, large or small. From simple things that might appear insignificant to others, but are vital to you, to the grandiose goals. Make this list as long as you can, and don't hold back. The idea was to have a residence in each of the 4 seasons. Spring here, summer here, autumn here, and winter here. If you could have anything to make your life truly unique in the next 10 years, what would it be? Imagine someone tells you can have whatever you desire in the next decade. What would you choose? But here's the catch. You can't have it if you can't think it, express it, or put it on paper. Ancient texts declare, to the believer, everything is possible. Now, some goals are close at hand, others not so near, and some are out there. But this is for over the next 10 years, a large chunk of time. How many chunks of 10 years do we have? About 10 chunks of 10, roughly. A fact with breakthroughs in science, technology, and nutrition, we may get an extra 20, 30 years in our lifetime, maybe 100, 110, 120, or even 130 years. I read in scriptures that individuals formerly lived to be 800 or 900 years old. I don't know how I ended up in a generation when we seem to be shortchanged with our lifespans. If I get the chance, I'll question, why did they get 800 years and I only get 80? It doesn't sound fair. But for now, I may not have the opportunity to ask. But if I do, I will. In this brief life we have, we want to fill it with as much development and achievement as possible. Not just for ourselves, but to reach out and touch everyone we can. All right, does anyone have 50 items on their list yet? Doing pretty well. Another couple of minutes, and you'll discover that you can keep adding items to your list as you go through the course. You don't have to stop where I stop. If you have plenty of time, just keep going. Keep brainstorming. What about this? Someone will say, and someone else might chime in with, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But yes, I'd want that too. That's what the workshop is for, to stimulate your imagination. In just 10 years, it's remarkable how much can happen. Kids by now have around 9 pages already filled, but grown-ups are a different story. You have to cajole these thoughts out of them. Kids will mention stuff you didn't even know existed. Now, put a little star next to an item if you believe you'll want to continue thinking about it later. You don't need to feel shortchanged by this list. It can go on and on. If you have more time in the workshop, keep working on it. There's no rush. Take your time and keep brainstorming until you're ready. Once your list is ready, here's what I want you to do. Go through it item by item, and for each one, give it a rating of 1, 3, 5, or 10. For example, ask yourself, is this a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal, or a 10-year goal? You don't need to be exact. Just estimate. You can guess. You might comment, this looks like it could take about 3 years, and this one feels more like a 5-year goal. Mark each objective as 1, 3, a 5, or 10. This is going to be really beneficial because when you teach it, you'll learn even more. Remember, some goals are personal. Some are for your family. Maybe you have objectives for your kids that aren't here right now, and you want to help them reach those too. There are corporate objectives, recognition goals, and interpersonal goals. His goals, her goals, their goals are goals. If something's highly personal, you may code it in a way that only you understand, so if your list were to slip into someone else's hands, they wouldn't be able to figure it out. For example, a star with a circle around it. Well, that's for you to know. Now, I want you to take each item you've ranked with a 1 and pick out the 4 most important ones. Make a new list or circle them, or add a star next to them. These are your 4 most significant 1-year goals. Once you've identified your top 4 1-year goals, here's the next question. Why are these goals essential to you? What are they going to do for you? What will they accomplish? Why did you choose these? Take a moment and write out 3 or 4 sentences. If we don't have time to complete it now, you can finish later. If you're doing this session and have the time, go ahead and take your time, but make sure you're clear on why these goals are important to you. Put a star next to these answers too, which means you can finish them later. This list can continue on long after the workshop ends, and you can always use it as a model to teach others. Practice instructing now. Make these notes next. When the why gets stronger, the how gets easier. When the why gets stronger, the how gets easier. When people don't have strong, powerful goals, the how feels impossible, too difficult. How can I ever accomplish this? They ask. But when the why grows bigger and stronger, the how becomes easier and easier. Purpose is stronger than object. A purpose is stronger than object. An object can be powerful. An object can be strong. But purpose is stronger than the item. One of your aspirations might have been $1 million mansion. Here's the big question, what for? And it's the what for that tug stronger than the $1 million property. Yes, a home is a home is a home. But what for? What are you going to do with it? Now let's get into the details. The drama is in the details. It works in communication. It works here too. The drama is in the details. Someone says, I lost 40 lies in the last 3 months. We say, that's it. That's simply numbers. But what about the details? How did you feel before? Well, let me tell you. Now the drama begins. How do you feel now? Wow, what a difference. The drama is in the details. What for? $1 million home. What for? So anybody can see it from the street. That's okay. But there has to be more. What do you want to do with it? Maybe it's going to be the hub of action. You can't believe what's going to happen in this home. Now, you start describing it. And immediately that vision, those details, begin to delve into your imagination. And imagination is the beginning of reality. You can't imagine how near imagination is to reality until you start practicing this technique. Turning nothing into anything. Turning imagination into the tangible, the real. How close is the genuine stuff? You can't imagine how close until you start tapping into the resource of imagination, until your purpose becomes stronger than the object. The thing is powerful, it will pull. But purpose is unbelievable. The price gets easier when the prize is big enough. We all must pay a price. But the price gets easier when the payoff is big enough. The price gets reduced when the prize is sufficient. God the Father might have spoken to Jesus. If you die and make the sacrifice, you become the bridegroom and you inherit the bride. I'm sure he said, that's enough for me. Yes, then I'll make the sacrifice easily. So the price gets smaller, easier, acceptable if the payoff is great enough. Disciplines. What a tiny price to pay for excellent health. An apple a day. Easy. A few modest things yield such an unbelievable return that the price virtually disappears. Promise is stronger than object. You got that. The bigger and more powerful the why, the how grows easier and easier. Make it worth your while if I stated 3 weeks from now, we're hosting another 2-day seminar. Anyone who gets 30 couples to attend will win a cashier's check for $50. And how many of you could discover the 30? Here's what you'd say, EC. I'd suggest, let's do a class on how to get 30 people. You'd say, forget the class, just make sure the check is good. That's the power of incentive. We all have that kind of creativity and talent. Somebody says, make it worth my while and see what I can do. Here's what I want you to learn. Make it worth your own while. Don't wait for someone else to come along and turn you on. If they do, terrific. But what if they don't? The power of self-motivation. Someone asked me, who motivates the motivator? I said, well, in my case, I motivate myself. I fascinate myself with the potential of exchanging ideas, thinking about the influence it has, the energy it creates. It's not simply the money or the fortune. I've already done that. But the rest of it, the actual reward, that's what thrills me. I jazz myself up. My own soul comes along and says, hey, wouldn't it be great? And then I say, yes, it would be great. Then I go out and do another seminar. I work hard. I push forward because self-motivation is priceless. Self-control, self-development. And that's where the real power is. Self-esteem and learning to deal with yourself are key. You have this capacity, and certainly it's helpful if someone comes along, as we've done these past 2 days, to stimulate and encourage you. But ultimately, I want you to learn to do that on your own. Now, here's how you get better at doing things by yourself. Do it for others. We say, come on, Mary. Hey, you've just been sitting around. Let's set some goals and see if we can't stimulate you and get you going. She answers, well, okay. Next thing you know, you've got her going. Then you help someone else, and soon long you get yourself going. Teaching is such a fantastic experience. You can't believe what I've realized from the imagination that's gone through my mind these last 2 days while teaching you. Some things have become clearer to me, and I've set a whole new set of goals. It's astonishing what occurs when you teach. Okay, now here's another activity I want you to go through. Take this list from 1, 3, 5, and 10 and count how many 1s, 3s, 5s, and 10s you have. Then make a tiny tally. I have this many 1s, this many 3s, this many 5s, and this many 10s. Go through and count them. Then construct a tabular list of the 1s, 3s, 5s, and 10s. Pretty straightforward. Now, I want someone here to volunteer to share their list. How many 1s, 3s, 5s, and 10s? Right down here. How many 1s? 7. How many 3s? 7. How many 5s? 12. And 10s? 18. How many of you had no 10-year goals? Interesting, this person had 18. That suggests he was thinking long-term. And how many 1s? Just 7 1s and 18 10s. That's remarkable because it shows he was thinking way ahead. Meanwhile, someone else was focusing more on the present. How many 1s did you have? Isn't it amazing to watch how various people approach their goals? Now, here's what you need to ask yourself. Do I need more 10-year goals? Am I thinking far enough ahead? At the same time, you should also ask, do I need more short-term goals? Because you can put a lot of minor things on that list and check them off regularly. This activity lets you see whether you're thinking too much short-term or long-term. And while short-term thinking is essential, you also need those long-range aspirations. Here's why. When the early astronauts got to the moon, and fantastic achievement, some of them experienced major psychological issues thereafter. Why? Because they wondered, now what? After such a huge success, what follows next? They did the parades and celebrations, but when all that finished, some of them struggled. Some even turned to booze. So later, NASA learned to ensure returning astronauts had lots of new projects lined up following their moon missions. And that's what you need. Enough more to go for. Once you accomplish one thing, have many more lined up. You should have seen my father's list in his 90s. He had enough ambitions to live to 150. What does that tell you? Always have something to strive for. When one objective is fulfilled, have plenty others to chase. That's what this activity is about. Your notes, your values, they make the difference in your results. Value makes the difference. You can't obtain more time, but you can produce more value. Now, here's the first lesson in economics. Something everyone should learn from an early age. Grasp what a dollar is, how to earn one, how to maintain one, and what to do with it. The first lesson of economics is this: we mostly get paid for value. That's lesson 1. Bringing value to the marketplace is how you get paid. You don't get paid for time alone. Yes, it takes effort to generate value, but you are reimbursed for the value, not just the hours invested. Since that's the case, here's a key question. Is it conceivable to become twice as valuable in the marketplace and make twice as much in the same time? Could you become 3 times as valuable and make 3 times as much in the same time? The answer is yes, but, and it's always a big F, life is full of ifs. Harry Truman once quipped, life is FA. How true! And here's the major if to ponder tonight. It is feasible to fare considerably better in the marketplace if you primarily work on yourself. That's the focus of our seminar, learning to work on yourself first. For the last 24 years, people have asked me, how do you develop an above average income? And the answer is simple. Become an above average person. A person can develop an above average handshake. Some people want to be successful, but don't even try improving their handshake, even though it's an easy place to start. They let it slip because they don't grasp the value of creating an above average smile, an above average level of excitement, an above average interest in others, and an above average intensity to win. If you work on these, it will change everything. One of the most difficult experiences in life is attempting to acquire an above average job with above average compensation without becoming an above average person. That's called frustration. Mr. Shea gave me one of the greatest bits of advice when I first met him. He stated, Jim, if you want to be wealthy and happy for the rest of your life, just learn this lesson, Wells. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. This was one of the most crucial signals he gave me out of so many teachings he taught me. Mr. Shah was kind, but very frank and had these great questions. One day, I was giving him a recap of how things hadn't worked out for me. He said, Jem, I've only known you a short time, but it's my honest opinion that for things to change for you, you've got to change. Next, decision making is powerful and emotive. It's those knots in your stomach waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat trying to decide. Sometimes it feels like an inner civil war. What should I do? For advancement, you must decide. The finest advice I can give you came from a wealthy friend of mine who said, if it's easy, do it easy. If it's hard, do it hard. Just get it done. If you went home tonight and cleaned up a whole list of decisions, it could provide enough inspiration for the next 10 years. I've discovered that after you decide, getting on with it is sometimes easier than deciding. Sometimes deciding is the trickiest part. Now, emotion and desire. Wanting something badly enough. I can't actually tell you how to want anything. That's something you've got to uncover for yourself. But I know two things about desire. Number one, it originates from inside, not outside. You don't just obtain it by wishing for it. Number two, desire can be awakened by something unexpected. Who knows what it might be? It could be a book, a song, a sermon, a lecture, a seminar, or even a discussion with a buddy. Sometimes desire waits for something to rouse it up. The best advice I can give you, which I also recommend to my workers, is to welcome every human experience. You never know which one will fire everything in you, even unpleasant experiences. Sometimes the bitterest experiences lead to the greatest awakenings. Let life touch you. Don't let it ruin you, but let it touch you. Finally, resolve. This one's powerful. Resolve states, I will. Two of the most powerful words in the English, I will. Benjamin Disraeli famously stated, nothing can resist a human that will stake even its existence on the extent of its purpose. Simply expressed, it's, I'll do it or die. That's powerful. That might be the day that changes your life around. The world has a funny way of moving aside when someone says, I'll do it or die. The person says, I will climb the mountain. They told me it's too high, too far, too rough, too difficult, and that it's never been done before. But it's my mountain, and I will climb it. Soon, you'll see me waving from the top or dead on the side, since I'm not coming back. The best definition of resolve I ever heard came from a junior high girl in Foster City, California. I was chatting to junior high kids one day and asking them what resolve meant. I got some fantastic answers, but the finest one came from a little girl in the back of the room. She raised her hand and said, Mr. Graham, I think I know what resolve means. I said, what does it mean? She replied, I guess it implies promising yourself that you'll never give up. I said, that's it. Webster, move aside. That's the definition. Pledge yourself that you will never give up.